Я познакомился с американцем из Калифорнии по имени Джексон Дэвид Лунса, и мы отлично с ним выпили и договорились заснять подкастик. Собственно, вот этот подкаст, я не знаю, почему на протяжении всего подкаста какие-то черные блики, это ошибка Вегаса, но в любом случае я сделаю субтитры, так что приятного просмотра.
Meet
Jackson.
David Lunch.
Yeah.
Lunch?
Jackson David Lunsa.
Lunsa.
If you want to pronounce it correctly, Lunsa, but people in America say lunch.
What is your favorite movie and why?
Oh, we're doing okay. Scarface, because it taught me to live to do as you want without, fear of reprimanding.
I've never seen this
Scarface?
This movie. Yeah, I've heard about it, and I've heard that it's some like gangster.
Yeah, it's about a Cuban gangster who goes to America and he starts a cocaine empire.
Oh.
And his whole thing is the world is his. That's the motto of the movie. The world is mine. The world is yours. Do what you want.
That's interesting.
So
I guess you follow the concept.
Yeah, the world is yours.
Yeah,
I just don't sell drugs.
Do you read books? And if you do, what is your favorite?
Yeah, I love reading. I'm always reading a book, but never very quickly. My favorite book ever is a book called The Adventures of Robinson Crusoe.
Oh.
Which I read, it.
Went on with, for sure.
I read it when I was 18, and it just gave me the spirit of adventure, which I felt I needed at the time, and I still live adventures today. So,
yeah, I see. You had the big impact on your life.
But I like books about history, theology, books about life wisdom, things like that. Yeah.
Psychology, perhaps.
Not so much psychology, but more just like stories about philosophy, things like that.
Yeah, I get it. Okay. What about your favorite music? Maybe band, maybe an artist?
Yeah.
I remember I was actually asking that, but I was drunk as fuck at the moment, so I don't remember shit. I remember you told me that you like Russian doom music.
Yeah.
But I don't think that is your top one.
I gotta send
genre.
you some of the Russian tunes.
Do you like rap? Do you like R&B, funk,
jazz?
Well,
I hate being the person who says, "Oh, I like everything," but truly, I have a song in each genre of music. Mainly though, I would listen to doom metal, different types of rock, like grunge rock.
So you prefer something more about rock?
Yeah, doom metal. I like grunge rock a lot, and then I like jazz.
Yeah, it's pure fan. It's full of energy.
Yeah, and I like jazz a lot. So bossa nova and things.
Okay, what is the place that you would like to visit the most and why?
I've been to over 40 different countries now, and the only one that I think of where I'd really
want to come back and maybe
need to go that I haven't been to yet. That I really need to go.
You've never been to it?
Yeah, a country that I haven't been to, like a country that I really want to go.
Wow, there are countries on the globe that you never visited. Wow.
Yeah. I had a dream that I had a dream that I was in Guam one time.
Guam?
Guam, an American territory. I was in a dream where I was on the beach looking up. I felt dehydrated and exhausted, and a beautiful Latina woman came over me, and she was very, very attractive. And then I woke up, and in my mind, it was Guam. It's like, fuck, I gotta go to Guam.
It's like some kind of state or territory that is
in the
under
United States.
US?
It's like
somewhere like
Caribbean, Indonesian type island. Yeah.
But where is it located?
I think it's in the Caribbean.
Caribbean.
I actually don't even really know.
I'm bad at geography.
Like near like places like Jamaica, things like that.
Oh,
Cuba.
Oh, so the Central America, basically.
Yeah.
Like Salvador, Dominican Republic, and stuff.
That's where my grandma's from, El
Salvador. Oh, and you were served by a hot Latina girl.
Yeah. But also, my end travel goal is India, to find enlightenment there, which is
India. Really?
Yeah, I read a book about it, and I'd like to go there. Yeah.
I don't know. As for me, India, maybe I'm just filled with stereotypes and stuff, but I don't know. India
I am too.
Too dirty.
I don't plan on hanging out there. I just want to go to study Hinduism.
Really?
Yeah, that's what it is.
You're interested in their ideology?
All theology. I came to Russia partly to study more about Eastern Orthodoxy. I love different religions and theology. So
that's interesting. And I guess one of the reasons to visit Dagestan is to see almost Russian people.
Yeah.
And I mean Arabic Russian people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get
Russian Islam.
What is your favorite cuisine and your favorite dish?
Yeah. Cuisine. Honestly, I think American food's the best in the world. Still.
What is
Still.
American food like?
Everything. Exactly.
Burgers?
Everything. Everything. Exactly. American food is just food from another country, but made better by being in America.
I've never been to America, so I
promise
have nothing
you.
to say.
Take any sort of dish in the entire world. Oh, I really love spaghetti. It's best in America. Oh, I really love tacos.
You want to say?
It's
You want to
best in
claim
America.
that it's
Yeah.
better? I mean, if we're talking about Italian cuisine, the pasta, the
It's better in America. I know people hate me saying that, but it's true.
That's a hot take here.
I love and I love Mexican food. I guess grew up on it in California.
I don't know. It's too.
You don't have good Mexican
My
food
stomach
here.
is too sensitive for it.
You don't have a good Mexican food here. You have to try it in California, the best in the world.
If someday I will
Mark
be
my
there,
words.
I will.
You're welcome to you're welcome to stay with my mom.
Huh?
You're welcome to stay with my mom if you come.
Are you sure? Are you really?
But yeah, if you come to America, sure.
But you know,
I know Russians don't fucking host people. Russians are like so non-hospitable usually, but
yeah, kinda. You can't
yeah.
couch surf in Russia.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Sure.
In America, you just say, come over, hang out.
What is your favorite game? I mean, not a video game, just like sport game. And then your video game, if you play.
Sport game, like a sport?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
volleyball, basketball, or something.
I don't really watch sport. I only watch MMA exclusively, and like wrestling and boxing.
You do not. Do you do any sports?
MMA, wrestling, boxing, some Muay Thai.
Only fighting sports.
Yeah, I did Muay Thai in like Thailand for a little bit, and so I plan on going back there and doing that.
They have your own like Thai box or something.
Muay Thai.
Muay Thai.
boxing, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's what I watch. And then video game, fucking good question. I used to play a shit ton when I was a kid. When I was like in high school, a shit ton.
For example, I'm really interested in that.
Yeah, I play a lot. What did I? Okay, probably 4 years of all of high school. Damn near every day, I would play a game called Rainbow Six Siege.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, you know that?
It's really popular in America, but
Yeah,
it is not that popular here in
yeah.
Russia. But still,
Russians play Counter-Strike, right?
and
Yeah,
Dota.
Yeah, and Dota. Yeah. People told me about Dota. But Siege, I got really good at the game, played the fuck out of it, and then I realized, fuck video games, can't do it anymore.
What about the like Call of Duty, about Battlefield?
Yeah, played Shadow. I love Battlefield. Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3, Call of Duty Black Ops.
What about the multiplayer
Halo.
games? Like, I don't know, Apex Legends, Fortnite.
Yeah, I played the Shadow Warzone 2, played Shadow Apex, yeah.
Yeah,
I used to
okay.
play video games all the fucking time.
So do you play now or?
No, I don't have I have a laptop, and sometimes I'll go like on a little like
But I
week.
guess it's not for games.
It is. It's a gaming laptop, but I don't use it often. Like I'll go on a week binge, where it's like, oh, this is one game, I'll play the fuck out of it, and then I stop another 2-3 months.
Yeah, I see. So that game, like, just sometimes you have the vibe to play games.
Yeah.
That's the thing that like happens to when you grow up, I guess.
Once you just find different things, like in the end of the day, gaming is like, and I love them. I love video games. I used to play the fuck out of them, but it is a distraction, and it's distracting you. Like, what do you hate? Oh, you're in school or work all day. Like, I want to go escape. I want to go play a video game.
Sure.
If you enjoy life, you actually kind of get bored playing video games because like I'd rather live life. You know
Sure,
what
it
I
makes
mean?
sense. Yeah. What is your biggest dream?
Biggest
I'd say like goal of your life.
Wow, great question. Thank you for being so interested. I appreciate it. But my biggest dream, my life goal, is to find spiritual enlightenment and become closer and one with God. It sounds cheesy, but that's probably it.
Well, it actually does not because
Yeah.
like I can totally feel you.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm actually an atheist.
Yeah,
Atheist,
atheist, yeah.
But you know, if I could have an opportunity to travel like so many places like you, to feel different cultures, feel different people, different religions, perhaps I'll find my one.
Yeah.
It's just like I feel kind of caged here. Like it is not so often when I have an opportunity to travel. So I guess we'll live, we'll see.
Well, we can talk. Well, we'll move on to the next question, but real quick, with religions, because again, it's something I study a lot, and in my experience, a lot of atheists, the reason they are this is more of a reactionary ideal towards the church. Like, you live in Russia, big Eastern Orthodox presence here,
Yeah.
very constricting.
Yep.
Same with like people who are Catholic in Western Europe, very constricting. So they kind of say, it's so constricting, and if I think about it, it seems kind of flawed. I don't want to follow it. Therefore, God's not real, because this is what I connect God to, this church.
Yeah.
When in reality, God is many
Something
things.
above the church. Yeah.
The church has no monopoly on whatever God is. So,
For sure.
and I hate the church a lot for being the way it is, and like it keeps a lot of people away from God because they kind of suck. Yeah, but anyways, in America we're bred on going against the church and having your own like individual thing.
Oh, I see. What is your biggest fear?
I don't know.
What is your biggest phobia? I don't know how.
Yeah, I try to think about this a lot. Biggest fear. These are tough questions, but also common ones that you never can answer. Biggest fear, probably. I guess like it's a classic. It's like failure, but I don't know if I'm afraid to fail. I try a lot of things.
What do you mean by failure?
Failing at what you intend to do, And I'm never.
In your case, you mean like to find an enlightenment?
Right. I don't even know if I'm afraid of that, because I'm very good at accepting things, and like I do a lot of things. I'm not very good at them, and I fail, and I'm not very afraid. So I couldn't say it's failure, but definitely maybe becoming wretched, leaving no impact on the world. That'd be my biggest fear.
So you want to like leave some impact on the world?
Yeah, if I left, my biggest fear is probably leaving no impact on the world. That would be my biggest fear.
What advice would you give to your younger self?
Wow, damn. How young?
Oh, well, I'd say like you're 24 right now.
Yeah.
I'd say 16.
16? It's so hard, because at one end, if my 16-year-old self would be here, right, I would go back there and like be in front of him. I wouldn't. I'd be afraid of saying something to him that would change his course, because I'm satisfied where I am now.
Yeah, because you will change the way his life after he will meet you from the future. He will.
Maybe I would just tell him.
Shocked.
Maybe I would just tell him all the hobbies I'm interested in now. You should keep getting in. You should get into it at that age. Like, I didn't get into MMA until like later on. It's like, hey, you should start wrestling now. You should start working out now. You should.
So basically, the only thing that
Get
you
more
will
pussy
tell
now.
your younger self is just you will just motivate him.
Yeah, like
to become the way you are right now.
yeah, maybe do things earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. Maybe you spent too much time doing that. Do it earlier. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite quote or saying, something like that?
I do actually. The world is yours is one of them. I have a whole list of quotes. It depends on the context. But yeah, the world is yours is something I always try to think about. And then simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, which is by Leonardo da Vinci. And then there is one about, it's by Nicolas Gomez de Villa. I think he's a Colombian political author, and this goes to politics, and it's my motto for politics. And its history clearly demonstrates that governing is a task that exceeds man's ability.
Exceeds man's ability?
Yeah, as in man is, the only thing history has ever taught us is that man cannot govern. Yeah, I got a lot. I love.
Can I see them?
Yeah.
You have them like written in your notes?
This one's good too. I always
Sincerely, even if it speaks with a stutter, will sound eloquent when inspired.
Yeah.
This
eloquent. Like it'll sound nice, very, very articulate.
Can I read again?
Yeah. Sincerity, even when spoken with a stutter, will sound eloquent when.
Oh.
Yeah.
I get it now.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Okay. Last few questions were so existential and like global, and now there are only some stupid like, what is your favorite drink?
We'll speedrun those ones.
If you wanna see some new places in Russia, I mean, some like unique places. I was living in Crimea. Do you know Crimea?
yeah.
The territory that was in Ukraine
Yeah,
for some
yeah.
time, and the
hot-
conflict.
Yeah,
that-
I've heard of Crimea. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
so
fun. You
I lived in Crimea for like a
Really?
year, yeah, and in different cities, in Yalta, in Sevastopol, in Simferopol. Like that's the
save
branded-
this for my interview. Save any Crimea talk for my interview.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So okay, you know that the nature there is astonishing.
heard beautiful.
It's the last month of living in Crimea and Yalta. It's like the city that is located in the amphitheater of mountains. And it's just I don't know.
I want to ask more about it, but we'll talk about it on my interview. That's my interview question.
For sure.
Okay.
So okay, what is your favorite drink?
Water.
That's kind of dry.
Honestly, fuck beer. If in terms of alcoholic drinks, I like a White Russian, but also
White Russian?
yeah.
That's the cocktail.
Yeah.
With
But I'd wine over beer. Also,
okay. What about vodka?
hate it.
Whiskey?
Expensive whiskey, I like it.
Tequila?
Tequila, I can down it. It's something I can down, and it's like it's the cheap alcohol. I was like, fuck it, let's get wasted. But yeah, Sambuca.
Have you tried it?
yeah.
What is your favorite ice cream?
Actually, good one. Green tea ice cream.
Green tea?
Yeah, have you guys tried it?
Never.
Try it.
We don't have such taste.
Try it. It's the best.
Okay.
Find it in an Asian Chinatown Asian shop and just get green tea ice cream. It's the bomb.
What is your favorite weather?
Weather?
Yeah, that's a dumb question
I don't know.
actually.
Actually, no. I mean,
Like I don't. As for me, it depends on your. Like,
well, it's like
on your mood.
every question is kind of a dumb question, but in the end of the day, it's like how much do you think about it? And I do think about that question actually some kind of often about like what kind of weather would I enjoy. I like warm weather. I used to think I grew up in California and it's always hot, and I used to think, oh fuck the heat.
What
I
is
hate
the
heat.
average temperature in winter?
In Celsius?
Yep.
Probably.
Oh wait, you have like
yeah,
you have
Fahrenheit. But I know Celsius. It probably doesn't go below like 18.
Really?
Yeah, 18 is probably like in winter, probably it's average.
That's like the average here in well at the beginning and at
Yeah.
in the end of the summer.
I know. But I used to hate the heat because it was always fucking hot in California.
There's no snow at all.
No. And then I lived in the snow. And I lived in winter. Like I lived in Poland during the winter. I lived in Canada during the winter. And that shit sucks. Like fuck the cold, fuck the winter. That sucks.
So you realized how
So,
awesome it is. To
I
live
realized how
in,
much
in
I-
warm, cool climate.
I'd love to live on the Mediterranean when I retire.
Yeah, I see. How do you prefer to relax?
Opium.
Well, that's an interesting thing, but if you don't have any like illegal substances,
Yeah. Would I prefer to relax? I don't know. Well, it's a hard question for me specifically because I don't work and I don't like stress out of school. I'm not like in some intensive school thing.
your whole life it looks like an adventure.
Yeah, I
like,
just relax and adventure. I am relaxed.
you are
I'm always
relaxed all the time.
Yeah, I'm always just hanging out. To relax, I just hang out in the park. I take a walk.
I think I should ask you an opposite question. How the fuck do you stress?
Yeah. What stresses me out the most?
Yeah, but I think there are no things there are.
Just the future. Always future, money, normal things. Anyway,
Yeah,
future,
like the
money. What am I gonna do?
Live. I mean, like stay. Decide only one country. Which country would you choose living in? Yeah.
I've always wanted to retire in southern Spain.
Southern Spain, like
Yeah.
Valencia or
Yeah, Malaga specifically. But I would also retire in Portugal.
why Portugal?
It's like Spain, but I don't know, cheaper even, which is really cheap. And then I have a friend in Portugal who said I could live in his house if I wanted to. I would like to live on the Mediterranean. It'd be somewhere on the Mediterranean.
Well, yeah, it's wonderful there. Like, what about Italy?
Sure. Yeah, southern Italy. Yeah, for sure.
You know, like my mom lives in Italy. I probably told it before.
Yeah.
And like sometimes maybe one time a year I go to Italy.
Really?
I just
Where in
keep-
Italy?
She lives in Milan.
Oh yeah, you told me that. Yeah, cool.
So, you know the pace of living,
It's relaxed, amigo.
it's I'd say
Siesta.
it's like senior citizen, like
Yeah.
it is the best country to retire in.
That's
It is
my-
quiet. It is like soft, like relaxed. So I guess best place in the world to retire is definitely Italy for me.
My uncle retired in southern Spain with his Spanish wife, and he's golden right now. He's living the best life he can. I love it. I want to be like
I see. Have you been to Portugal, by the way?
Portugal.
In Lisbon or
Yeah,
Porto?
Porto, Lisbon, Porto, a place called Braga. That's where my friend lives.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember. I've probably already asked that. You've been to Southern America, right?
Southern
Or you-
America, no, Latin America. I've been from Mexico.
Well, Latin America, yeah.
I've been from Mexico down to Honduras.
From Mexico to
Honduras. So I've been to Mexico, Belize, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras.
And what about Peru?
No,
Bolivia,
that's like all South
Argentina?
America. That's all South.
Brazil?
No, this is my next South America.
I see.
Once I'm gonna get a friend, we're gonna go back there.
Mm.
Bang some Brazilian babes.
I don't I don't know. As for me, like the
Probably not.
North
Never
and
been.
Latin American countries are really dangerous.
Anyways, people say that about Russia,
Ah, well, it's
but it's definitely
it's
not.
obviously not that
No,
dangerous.
you're right though.
If you could meet any person in the world, who would it be?
Alive or dead and alive?
Well, both, I guess. Anyone.
Alright, let's
If you wanna, like, I don't know, like, dead people, like who?
Me.
Michael Jackson.
yeah. Dead and alive, I'd probably meet Jesus Christ to see what he's really the son of God or not.
Wow, that's an interesting answer.
Or alive, I'd probably meet some big giant political figure. I'd probably meet like honestly maybe Putin. I feel like if I had one beer with Putin, I could solve Ukraine.
Yeah.
After one beer, it'd be over. Be like, you know what, you're right. Like,
Yo,
we'll
I
run
hope
that.
that is like that is the same thoughts that Trump has. Hope
Hey,
so.
And honestly, any politician, we're gonna get this on my interview. We're gonna get into this, but any politician in America could have solved this whole thing over one beer with Putin. I swear to God,
I
if they
think
wanted
it's
to, but they choose not to.
something like
They choose not to. It's a whole different thing they're going about.
it's way more complicated than just like the president. I don't know. I believe like a little bit in conspiracy theories and
Yeah.
like LA stuff.
I mean, I believe a lot of it, and it's not like people say, oh, it's more complicated than that. It's not really. The only thing is that they don't want to. It's not more complicated than they don't want to do that. They don't want the issue to be solved.
Like, what is the average wage of the janitor in U.S.?
Probably like $16 an hour.
Are you fucking kidding me right now?
$16 an hour.
Are you
yeah.
fucking
Yeah, probably.
kidding me
Probably.
right now?
Yeah.
$16
Like
per
average, yeah.
hour?
Is that
And what is the average amount of hours that they have to work
oh,
at
probably
one shift? Like 8?
Yeah, probably like 8 hours a day.
So it's basically 8 on 16 multiplied by 16. It's 80. So basically, our janitor earns the same amount of money as your by 3 days, even less.
And when it comes to wages and salary, every other country is a third world country compared to America. We just make the best. But again, things are still very expensive in America. We're gonna get into my interview, but things are very expensive in America.
I don't know. Like literally, there are no interesting questions anymore.
Give me one last good question, and we'll go into depth. Kakila. Okay, great.
Do you love me?
Yeah, I love everyone.
I think we're done.
Love is the most important thing in my life.
I think that's it. That was the last interesting question.
Was that a question on there?
No, for sure.